Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, many of us were watching yesterday to see if we would have the launch from Kennedy Space Center, but Mother Nature had a different plan in mind. And here's some of the thunderstorms kind of erupting across the Florida Peninsula just yesterday on the 27th. We got a pretty awesome view here of one of the shelf clouds that passed over Kennedy Space Center, taken by Ryan Bale. So thank you for putting this out on Twitter for us to all see here. And as these storms went across Florida, we actually saw quite a bit of lightning out of this. This is just looking yesterday at the 162,000 lightning strikes we did get on the 27th. Now, just to let you know something, when we add up the statistics on lightning strikes across the United States, we on average have about 7 strikes per second. That's averaged over the whole year, so that includes winter when we don't have much. So we're in that time of year where lightning is a very frequent occurrence, and we're going to be seeing a lot of thunderstorm activity as we press forward in this forecast. Then what I've been calling kind of a bit of a surprise here was the development of Tropical Storm Bertha. So if you remember my Monday video of the National Hurricane Center, some of our forecasts were suggesting that the chances of this becoming a tropical storm were relatively low. But here you see it spinning across parts of South Carolina into North Carolina, adding more rain to an area that has been just under the gun in terms of flooding here over the last 10 days or so. If you want to, go ahead and pause the video, take a look up there at the lake breeze coming off of Lake Michigan as well. A lot of cool stuff going on in this particular image. Now, where Bertha's remnants are going to go, as you can see, are going to cut across the Appalachian Mountains, moving up into parts of Pennsylvania throughout the day today, and then eventually making their way through the Canadian Maritimes here on out into open Atlantic Ocean when we get way out there in the forecast. So we're going to keep an eye on that because it could be causing problems for Europe about 10 days from now. So Bertha's story is nowhere near over just yet in terms of affecting weather across the Northern Hemisphere. Meanwhile, the pesky upper-level low that has been sitting and spinning over parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri. Well, this is what it looked like yesterday. And on its southern edge, as you watch these storms kind of erupt here into the late afternoon and evening hours, they caused a lot of problems in south central Texas, who over the last about 10 days has really just been hammered with severe weather, including a lot of very, very large hail. Well, this storm system, which also kicked up quite a bit of rainfall in parts of Mississippi, Alabama, is going to be slowly moving off to the north and east. In fact, it's going to build into a deeper trough over the northeast, removing some of the heat that's coming in the near term and replacing it with some pretty chilly weather for this time of year as this thing again gets off into the northeast. But as we just kind of look at one last satellite animation from yesterday, this is a pretty breathtaking animation here just off the west coast of the United States. And what I want you to see here is that there are 2 separate circulations. You see the one that is down here to the south and the much, of course, deeper low that is pulling through the Gulf of Alaska. These 2 features are going to be coming together slowly over the coming days here to build a sizable trough across the western part of the United States. It's going to get rid of the extreme heat threat we've seen in the Central Valley of California, where we still have one more day of excessive heat warnings out for that area. And we're going to be replacing that with some cooler weather and some unsettled weather. So with that as our setup, let's see how things are going to be evolving here, because replacing the heat that we have right here with so much cooler weather is going to be much needed here across parts of the western United States. In fact, just now that I take a closer look at it, it's amazing to see the Colorado River right in through here, and as it cuts through the Grand Canyon, the heat at the bottom of the canyon yesterday. But the cooler weather that we did see stretching in parts of the eastern half of the United States, all of this was cloud cover and precipitation driven. Now, thankfully, this is not a forecast. Okay, this next map I'm showing you was a map that I showed 1 year ago today. This was the forecast going into the beginning of June a year ago, and this is when we just could not shut down the atmosphere with the deeper trough west and the flow just basically running just like this across the United States, running over a ridge here. And so we were anticipating a year ago some extremely heavy rainfall that was going to include the making worse of the flooding situation we had on our major river systems in the midsection of the United States. We'll be thankful it's not a year ago, because this is what our current forecast holds. While we do still have some heavier precipitation throughout the day today that's going to be lined up here from parts of Missouri through eastern Iowa, where we do have flood watches out for this area, then getting into parts of Wisconsin and Michigan, the low that is still spinning in this area will slowly be moving toward the north and east, and the heavy rainfall that was from Bertha will also be going in this direction out ahead of it. Behind that, though, we're going to be bringing in some drier conditions. In fact, let's just look at that same map and compare it to normal over this next week. And you can see here that we have a lot of area across the Canadian prairies and the United States that gets into some drier conditions with time here. We will be seeing, though, a resurgence of almost monsoonal-like moisture here in the Four Corner states, and some wetter than average conditions across the northwest as this next trough pulls in. But once this rain here moves on out to the north and east, things are going to dry down a bit, and you can see that here on this map. So the European model echoes the same forecast. This is the operational run through the next week, and here is the departure from normal. So this is just looking at, compared to average, what does precipitation look like. So that's it. That's how things are really shaking down over this next week. Now, early this morning, this is what we were watching on the radar. So we do have one frontal boundary coming in through here, and as it presses again around the flow of that upper level low, let's watch that again. This will be the area throughout today that's kind of a slow-moving front bringing in that precipitation. You can then see where Bertha is moving here and is expected to go off in this direction, but this will be the mainstay of kind of where we're going to see the precipitation throughout the day today. Storm Prediction Center is going to keep an eye out ahead of all of this. So you can see down here in parts of Texas, and then this corridor in through here having the best chances for some strong to severe storms today. And as we progress into the day 2 forecast on the 29th, we're going to watch the northeast. And then finally the day 3, as the deeper trough becomes established out west, we're going to watch here from Colorado, stretching back through parts of Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and into Washington state for the risk of some stronger to severe storms. So what's happening with this upper level flow pattern is this. Here's the pesky low that we've just slowly seen meander here across the southern plains. Here are those 2 lows I told you to keep an eye on that are just off the west coast. As we play this forward, watch how all of this shifts. So we're going to be bringing in the troughs together into the west, while a broader trough extends here throughout the weekend into early next week over the northeast, bringing in some much cooler air. But with this large ridge building into the central United States, the temperatures are really going to be on the rebound after some cooler weather exits at the end of this week. And what we see here is this pattern tends to favor this broader ridge in the midsection of the country as we begin the month of June, which means a big rebound in heat in the midsection of the country, while the west cools off and the northeast starts off June with a relatively cooler picture. What's interesting is as we play this out to the end of the first full week of June, and even into the second week of June, we tend to see this trough here staying persistent in the European model. It's also in the GFS. So that's going to keep a lot of warmth here across the central United States over toward the eastern Corn Belt, but it could keep a very unsettled pattern here in the northern plains getting into Canadian prairies. And we're not really going to shut down the moisture permanently coming out of the Gulf of Mexico under this ridge either. So some pulses in there bringing quite a bit of thunderstorm activity, and maybe even some ring of fire type precip around a high pressure cell that will form here into the first week of June. So let's just take a look at what this is going to be like on our high resolution NAM model. So we're playing you out here all the way through early on Saturday morning. Watch this again with me. You can see those features moving throughout the day today on Thursday into Friday morning here, Friday afternoon and evening, and now getting into Saturday. And notice on Saturday, that's when we start to see the pattern really begin to shift with drier air coming into the middle part of the country. But look at the precip there coming into Northern California. That's the pattern shift that we're going to be watching here. So to show you that kind of in full evolution through at least the next week, I want you to look at these 2 maps together. On the left, I have the normal one we look at, which is sea level pressure with precipitation type and intensity. On the right, I have precipitable water. So where you see the warmer colors, that's higher moisture content in the atmosphere, and the bluer colors is drier. So if we play this forward, let's pause it here and just watch a few of these pieces moving together. Throughout the day today, we're going to be again watching for the wettest conditions being under this high precipitable water air, and you can see it here. This is where we're expecting the heavy rains to come through. But look at the dry push that's coming behind this. So with that drier push on that front, watch how things go from in the evening hours tonight into Friday morning, Friday afternoon, and evening. There's that drier air coming with higher atmospheric pressure. See it like this? Meanwhile, our two lows, here's the first and here's the second, they're teaming together to start to make the western United States show up with a little bit different pattern. So what I'll be watching over the weekend, possibly some storms right here coming out of the Central Plains, specifically southern South Dakota, getting into Nebraska. But other than that, relatively drier air invades the midsection of the United States, pressing here toward the south and east. So as we play from Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening, we're not really watching too much in the way of precipitation here. But notice the big push here of moisture coming in around that system that's moving into the west. See it there? And with that, we're going to be seeing drier conditions in the midsection of the country. But with the push of moisture, the Canadian prairies are going to show up wet over the weekend and into early next week. With the high pressure cell moving here over parts of the Ohio Valley, we're going to be returning moisture back into the central part of the United States, and you can start to see it right there. As I play this forward into June 1st, now starting into June 2nd, that's where we have another push of moisture possibly coming through the Great Lakes states, and with it some showers and precipitation. But moving this forward from Tuesday into next Wednesday, out ahead of the next dry push, see it there? We do have a frontal boundary, and on the leading edge of it next Wednesday, we're going to watch again for some showers and storms. But overall, what we don't see with this pattern, because of the broader ridge that's in place, is big low pressure cells moving through the mid part of the country. So as you pull this out to next Thursday, again, right here where the high precipitable water is, leading edge of that front is where we're going to be seeing some showers and storms. But overall, this is not painting a wet picture through much of the United States, unlike a year ago that we were doing right now as we play this out through the next week. So looking exclusively at week 2, which gets us all the way out to the evening of June the 10th, we see that week 2 is going to be wet through the Canadian prairies, drier conditions overall in both the GFS and the European model in through here. So where is it going to be wet? Kind of along the periphery of this. So you can see the monsoonal moisture in the desert southwest. We can see almost the ring of fire-like behavior here around the edge of that drier air. And I'll just tell you, at times, we will get thunderstorm activity in here where I'm putting an X, but it's going to be not organized on big low pressure systems, I guess is the main way to think about it. Notice too how both models are keeping the tropics active with thunderstorm activity. Now, with that cooler air that's coming in today, we will get some stronger northwest winds through the north central plains of the United States. And as we get into the day on Friday, that's when the cooler air along that front really advances pretty far to the south. But I say cooler for the end of May is still seeing high temperatures in the 70s. As we work our way into the weekend on Saturday, remember this is where we're going to watch this area for some thunderstorm activity. You can see there's the low and the moisture being pulled right around it here. So we're going to have some convergence in that area and thunderstorm activity. But look at how windy it's going to be here in parts of the Intermountain West. All right, talking temperatures now. You'll see those temperature patterns evolve. Again, today, another scorcher with triple-digit heat in the Central Valley of California, where that northwest wind's coming through here, and with the cutoff low that's still spinning over the south, you see a broad region of cooler air, but that's going to be replaced very quickly. So watch this. As we go from the day on Thursday into Friday, what we're going to see is the cooler air transitions Friday into Saturday. It's going to be moving off to the north and east. And behind it, while things cool off here over the weekend along the west coast, the heat pulls into parts of Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and then gets out into the plains on Sunday into Monday, where we could be seeing high temperatures here deep into the 90s. This could be critical for the health of the wheat crop as we're going through grain fill right here in this part of Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Nebraska. Meanwhile, the slightly cooler temperatures we've been dealing with here in the east will be replaced as we move forward with warmer temperatures next Tuesday and into Wednesday as broad sector warmth in the midsection of the country happens as that ridge pulls in. Now, if you look at it, days 6 through 10, again, look at the warmth that both models are picking up on here. And the pattern that we're going to be settling into as we work our way through the first week of May is largely going to be one that does something like this. So with that ridge in place, that's why we saw things on the drier side with more active weather that's going to be coming out of the Canadian prairies into the north central United States. But both models picking up on the heat here with a break from the extreme heat in the western part of the United States. All right, as we move forward, I want to just tell you to keep a close eye on the tropics. As we've been discussing this week, the Mount-Julian Oscillation has moved out of the Western Pacific over into phase 7, 8, and 1. And what that means is we're going to be promoting better upper level conditions here in parts of the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Western Atlantic. And why we're just going to keep an eye on that is that could mean that we could get pulses of tropical moisture, maybe some low pressure development there. And I just want to let you know that I want to watch it, okay? It's that time of year we got to watch that region in the tropics. Elsewhere around the world in terms of ocean temperatures, in the near term, we're getting a pretty quick blast of westerly winds that's going to go towards South America, but our trades are still strong in this area. We've seen a cooling trend here off the Baja, and if that were to continue, that would indicate that with the stronger trade winds we've been seeing, that could elevate some concern about some summer heat and possibly some regional drought in the United States. But I'd also need to see where we currently have a warming trend in the North Pacific. I need to see that go over cool as well. And we've been discussing that in our long-range forecasts. I will show you this though. This is our Central Pacific Nino Region 3.4 Ocean Temperature Index, and right here is the zero line. We've now moved to almost a half degree below average here in this region, Nino Region 3.4, which is really indicating La Nina-like behavior. We're expecting this La Nina again to get really going toward the end of summer, and that'll certainly have an impact on our hurricane season and on the way that we approach harvest in North America. So quickly, a couple of international things to talk about. Over the next 10 days, the Black Sea region, so again, the Black Sea's right in through here, Ukraine, the Russian wheat belt, not only going to be seeing some cooler than average weather, but also unsettled weather in terms of precipitation. That will also be critical for the finishing of the winter wheat crop in that area. From there, I'm going to take you to South America as we approach harvest for the safrinha crop and a lot of the full season crop in Argentina. We do see here that overall drier conditions are in the forecast over the next 10 days. And while we will be seeing a cooler kind of push of air through much of the next week, we do anticipate in the day 10 through 15 time period a warm up to come back into Argentina and southern Brazil. So we'll keep an eye on all of this, and I'll watch it for you carefully over the weekend and report back to you very soon, all right? Hope you all have a great finish to your week and a great weekend that's coming up here, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.